Good to have with us as our halftime guest, Joseph Swagart, who wears a whole lot of caps there in Bayside Academy. How you doing, Joe?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing good. I was looking at an email that had your name in closing and then a litany of jobs that you have: mathematics instructor, uh, compliance coordinator, track and field head coach, cross country head coach. You carry a lot of caps, a lot of responsibilities there.
Yeah, it's the school's worked. We've worked it out where it's possible to do during a workday, but there tends to be some things that go home, pretty often. But as with cross country, indoor, outdoor, that keeps me busy year round. But also one thing that my wife and I work heavily with is our youth development program as well with cross country and track and field. But a lot of that's not possible without the help of a lot of good assistant coaches as well.
I know that we spoke a year ago, but for new viewers to our game or to our conversation tonight, kind of give us a little background on you, a bio on Joseph Swagart, where you come from, how you got to Bayside.
Well, I'm in my 11th year at Bayside. Been coaching cross country, indoor and outdoor now for 19 years. I was previously at Cottage Hill for 8 years, and but I've always taught upper school. Always taught the higher levels of math and physics from the very beginning. So, kind of give you a little bit of background there.
Math and physics, that is difficult. I'll leave it at that. I mean, that's something I haven't delved into. I did what I had to do to get by high school and college. Um, it is I don't want to call it a unique, it's a smart mind that goes math and physics route. What directed you that direction? And that, of course, academically, and the tie with track and field from an athletic perspective. What brought you to both?
I originally majored in meteorology at South Alabama. I could handle the math and science background, but I didn't know if I wanted to do that for a career. I wasn't extremely confident in that. So, one of the things that influenced me to get a degree in math and statistics while at South was one of my meteorology professors. She had an undergrad in mathematics. So I went that route. I was removed a year and a half from college before I started teaching. And then when I started teaching, um, at Cottage Hill, the only other math teacher that was at the school retired, so I got the choice of whatever was left over, or whatever I wanted to teach. And so I decided I would, not far removed from college, decide to teach the calculus, and they needed a physics teacher, then physics. But when I applied to go teach here, the goal was to teach the AP Calculus BC, continue the physics. In terms of coaching, I did not run in college. I had hoped to run in college. I ran cross country, and I was a distance runner in high school. So in terms of the sport of track and field, having to really learn a lot of the field events when you're a young coach and you got some kids who are willing to learn and grow in certain sports, you just share, hey, we're learning this together. To It's a really cool thing is, almost having a state champion every field event. I know that we've not had one in pole vault, or we might. It was really close to having a pole vault state champion, but having somebody win long, triple, high jump, disc, shot, and not had a state champion in javelin yet, but to be able to have good assistant coaches, athletes who are willing to work, and being able to push your kids, and you got to learn. You're always constantly learning, and it's the only way to get better at what you do.
If you had to give up one or the other, I mean, it sounds like you're very involved outside of just high school coaching, but outside of the Bayside curriculum, you are very involved with coaching track and field. So, if there was an ultimatum, one of them had to go. Which one would go?
You're saying whether I had to give up coaching or teaching?
Yep.
Both would have to go. I couldn't do one without the other. If I had to give up coaching, then teaching would have to go too. It would be a completely different career. Now, if we can talk about the number of preps I teach and streamlining that. I teach. This year I have 4 preps. But part of the difficulty is I have a lot of classes where they're very small and there's only one class offering. So to have a full teaching load, you've got to teach more classes. So that may be where the shift happens long term. Maybe getting it down to 2 or 3 preps. But I do enjoy what I teach, and I enjoy the students I have, and being able to push them academically. And then as far as athletics, doing the same thing. We're, as I shared earlier, we're involved with our youth development, and that may be something where we try and see if we can get additional help and somebody take leadership of that.
I know I get asked often, which sport do I like to call most? And I'll tell folks, really, I'm ready for the next season when the next season begins. Is it kind of like that with teaching and coaching that when you do kind of, I don't know if burned out is the appropriate word, but if you get tired of one briefly, you have another one to fall back on. Do you find that being true? Or is there just this love for both
Yeah.
at all times?
Well, as a distance runner, I'll always love distance. There's challenges in the field events. They're so technical. Cross country is really where you have your breath of fresh air because you can show up to a meet and everybody does only one event. Whereas in track and field, you may have a kid do up to 4 events, and then you're trying to, hey, we got to schedule this kid a certain way because they might actually have 3 or 4 events all coinciding, especially if you have a talented jumper. And so, or a thrower might have 2 throwing events going on at the same time. So definitely cross country's, it's a much more enjoyable day. It's a shorter day. We do a lot of traveling for cross country. So that may be a little bit more of a burden for us in that we just spent this past weekend in Georgia. We're going up on Saturday to Montevallo to race in a twilight race. And then the following week, we're going to Huntsville. But a lot of these competitions are really necessary for our cross country program in that we face some really talented teams. And our girls team was one of the, probably one of the top 5 teams in the state last year. And barring it, we're running through some injuries and some things that are holding us back as a team, but we're working through those and hopefully we can be healthy towards the end. But with track and field, the nice thing is we can stay local. A lot of what we need here, we will travel for one meet. So each has its plus or minuses, but indoor, everything's up in Birmingham. There's no way around it. It's the only indoor facility in the state. So, when we try and get our kids the opportunity, the challenge we face as a school is that we can only make the varsity level competitions. It's very hard to make the JV middle school meets during the middle of the week. So, but that kind of tells you a little bit about each of those and the energy needed for them.
And you mentioned that the only indoor facility is in Birmingham. So are you rehearsing or practicing or doing your meets throughout the course of the year in an outdoor setting and then go indoors in Birmingham?
Yeah, it's the only way. There's no way to replicate it. And the only thing is it's warmer indoors. And then, you get your cold winter days. And then, the facilities are really nice. It's actually shared by during the volleyball season, they do a lot of volleyball tournaments inside the Crossplex. They'll convert the track and field. And I know that they do the first round of the state volleyball tournament inside that facility.
Is a runner in track and field quicker indoors or out?
Always outdoor. Then multiple turns, especially for sprinters. If you're running a 400, you're going to have 4 turns, whereas outdoor 2. And you also, they're bank tracks, so it's a little bit more challenging. You actually feel like you're running uphill somewhat on an indoor track with the way the Crossplex is built. So for sprinters, a little bit more challenging, and also the conditioning. I mean, you're going from indoor, outdoor, they're consecutive. And so by the time you get to outdoor, the end of the season, our athletes have, and all athletes end up having, more fitness to work off of.
Where cross country is concerned, an athlete, to me, I'm not trying to suggest that a cross country athlete is the smartest of the athletes, but it does seem to
Mhm.
take a different mindset, a mindset that you've got a mental discipline to force yourself to go these long distances when the body might say otherwise. Is it a different athlete that is running cross country versus maybe one that plays football or basketball or baseball with those short energy bursts?
Well, just like in any sport, athletes have to be disciplined to be good at their craft. I do find that our distance runners tend to be can be really strong students in the classroom as well. Um, we will have athletes recognized by the Mobile Optimist Club, but no, like I appreciate the fact that if you're running 20, 30, 40 miles a week, and then some of our kids are trying to get closer to 50. Um, I mean, there is the mental side of running that is important, but then the only way to get to that is building up the physical. Um, and so the season upon season growth, not just within the season, is important as well. And so, to think that some of these athletes at the collegiate or Olympic level are running 100 or so miles a week, even more, just the fact that they got to make the time for it, and then the discipline that goes behind it. There's no doubt there's a lot of mental strength behind it.
You mentioned there have been some injuries this year where cross country is concerned. What is the most common cross country athlete injury?
Shin splints would be one. In a common one for athletes who do a lot of mileage, even stress fractures. Fortunately for us, that's not very common for stress fractures. I was one who experienced that in high school. I had a stress fracture in each leg. My coach said, "Well, these are just shin splints. You can keep working through it." And so anytime we have a kid who's been feeling or an ache or pain for a week or so, they've definitely got to get it checked out. Um, Shin splints is oftentimes what we see with a lot of our our field athletes, where or new athletes who come that have just been doing a lot of jumping. They've been on our track surface more than what they're used to, and so really it becomes an overuse injury. Um, so it's important that when we do bring new athletes in, that we bring them about slowly and not just say, "Hey, here, let's try this, let's do this, let's do that." Um, it's perhaps one of the greatest challenges we have with new athletes is just keeping their shins to a point where it's not prohibiting them from being able to run. Um, as far as our cross country injuries, some of them are just keeping our athletes from being able to run, and they're having to do fitness by other means, like on a bike or swim, trying to keep their fitness levels up. But it's not a very common thing for us. I tend to be more on the conservative side with mileage. But it can be known that certain programs in the state, especially with cross country, tend to have kids who are injured with stress fractures.
Coach Joseph Swagart, who is the head cross country coach, track and field coach, um, mathematics, physics, compliance, you name it, he does it. Thanks so much for being our halftime guest. I know we chatted a year ago. Let's do it again in 2025.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Robert, for having me.
Thank you.